Janet, namaste. Welcome to A Cup of Clarity. It is an absolute honor and pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you, Jeanette. It's a pleasure to be here. I've been looking forward to this. So
Me
thank
too.
you.
Me too. So, Janet, you are out in New York, and I wanted to find out a little bit. How are things over there? 'Cause New York is one of my favorite cities, and I can't wait to go back to visit. And are things kind of opening up over there?
Yeah, thank goodness things are opening up, which is incredible. Even when it was during COVID, what a lot of restaurants did, they, opened up shop on the sidewalk.
Mm,
And it was very interesting the way the mayor had it. You weren't allowed to do inside dining, but yet you were able to do it in the tents
huh.
or, so it was really, really interesting. Parking was probably during that time, not probably was like
Was.
very difficult because it's literally in the streets. But it wasn't, normally it is packed all the time. I live about 20 minutes away from Manhattan, but it took me 20 minutes to get to Manhattan during COVID. Now
Yeah.
traffic is back, which, the things that we took for granted, in the or that we used to complain about of traffic.
Right.
This is what I'm really grateful for. The city's opening up. People are opening up. People are, there's, definitely visitors from all over town,
Mhm.
coming back to visit. So I'm
Yeah.
so happy for that.
New York has
I love
always
New
been,
York.
yeah, it's been such a resilient city, always.
Yeah.
And I'm just so happy. And I think Broadway's coming back now sometime in September. So I'm going to probably try to make a fall trip out there. So come out
Oh,
and visit
good.
you. I always like to start with, and you did mention you're grateful for New York opening up again, but what are you specifically grateful for today?
Mm. I'm grateful for this every day. And it's not just of the blessings that I have in my life. And, I'm grateful actually here sitting and having the opportunity to speak with you. I have
Yeah.
truly, I'm grateful even for the challenges that I've gone through in my life and the challenges that I've seen, even the suffering of loved ones, of family members, of extended family members, of, friends, of how, they overcame or integrated their obstacles and found the strength and the wisdom that they have inside. So I'm grateful for the capacity to be able to um, wake up this morning and transmute any energy of darkness or negativity or even ego things of fear and be able to step into courage, especially we're filming this and recording this during the month of Leo, and Leo is about ego. It's a lot about ego, and ego is not just about me. It's
Hmm.
also about fears. So I'm grateful for the courage that I've had to step into being real, just being me.
The best thing. And I
Yeah.
love that you said that you're grateful for the challenges. A lot of times we don't understand that when we are grateful, gratitude encompasses everything. So we're always grateful for all the wonderful things that come into our life, but definitely all of those challenges and things that cause us to be resilient because it's where we
Yes.
grow. The tagline for this podcast I created is insight for intentional living. And if there's anyone I feel that has deep insight for how to live our destiny in an intentional way, it's you. And it's because you have a very special gift. It is your purpose here. And it's a gift that you put in service to others. It's transformational and it is powerful. You are the four clairs. And I don't know that if folks know that it's your clairaudient, clairsentient, clairvoyant, and claircognizant. And you have 25 years of experience in this field, as well as being a Reiki master. So, Janet, I wanted if you could tell us a little bit just about your background and when did you first know you had this very incredible and deep and powerful gift within you?
Since the moment I was able to communicate.
Wow.
Yeah, since the moment I was able to communicate. Yesterday it was funny. I was teaching a class and I spoke about how, as an infant or as a toddler, people would try to speak for you.
Mm.
Oh, look, Janet is saying this. Oh, look, Jeanette wants this. When in reality, you are this old, wise soul stuck in this little tiny body as an infant, as a toddler. And there was so much wisdom. And I knew from early on, I was able to see auras, different
Wow.
colors of the aura, not just one color, but all different colors. As people would walk by, I was able to see, it looked like, different, like colors, just like clouds, like going by. And, there was a tragedy when I was 18 months old. I'm a child
Mm.
of immigrants.
Right.
I'm first generation American. We lived in very humble beginnings, to say the least. I shared a bedroom with my parents. I
Oh,
slept in a crib until the age of 5, because we didn't, it wasn't, I don't even know if they couldn't afford a bed at that time, or they were moving, but I was in a crib, until the age of 5. But at a very young age, when my grandmother passed at 18 months, that was when I was able to really connect to the other side. And that's mediumship work. And this is something that I don't really advertise too much,
right.
because my children are both empaths and intuitives. And when I did do mediumship work, it's my son didn't know how to close it off, because I'm still under the roof of my family.
Right.
So that's when I started seeing different energies, and there was a lot of tragedy, and heartbreak, one after the other. I was, going from nanny to nanny, and my mother had to work
Yeah.
at the time, because my grandmother was my sole caretaker, so my parents could go and work. And I just remember, at a very young age, being able to discern the energy of people's hearts. I was able to read and translate the vibrations of their
Amazing.
truth. And I just couldn't comprehend why their words weren't matching up to the frequency of what their hearts would say.
Mm.
And that's why young children, and animals, dogs, cats, they aren't as jaded as we are when we get older as adults,
Yes.
and they really sense the warmth and the compassion of the human spirit. And as we get older, and challenges and karma and dharma comes our way, sometimes
Yeah,
we
it
have
changes
this.
us.
It changes us because of protection, and it's because of feeling that there is a scarcity or lack of love somewhere, like that love will run out.
Mhm.
And where can I find the love? Where do I feel inadequate? So from a very young age, my parents then took me to doctors, because I would start
Yeah.
saying that I hear this, I see this.
Yeah.
And then when I spoke about what the doctors, I'm like, oh, your grandmother's here. This is her name. And
Oh,
so
no.
that's when, and I come from a family of all like scientists and physicians.
Right.
And so it was something that, if it's not seen, how are you translating this?
Right.
So from a very young age, I was they called me a Wunder kid, right? That's like, with their accents, with their Eastern European accents. But I was speaking 6 languages by the time I was 5 years
Amazing.
old. And yeah, English was my last language at age 5, at that moment. And but it was easy for me to translate, because it was translating the vibrations of people's souls at that moment. So seeing, hearing, feeling, all of those clairs,
Right.
it was just part of, I thought everyone had that ability.
Right.
I thought everyone
As a
did.
kid, you didn't understand it.
Right. And I couldn't comprehend. So therefore, I had to maintain patience, which is very difficult for a Capricorn ruled by Saturn. Even though we do things methodically, not with an alternative plan, but we do things in integrity. We take our time, but it's not very patient when we want
Right.
results. We
Yeah.
want results. So it took a little bit of an awakening.
Mhm.
about patience, and of also insecurities it brought up too with that gift, because I thought, if I can sense the energy around in people's hearts and in their minds, I made sure that I would be very responsible in my thoughts, that I wouldn't offend anyone what I was thinking, or I would judge, thinking they would read my mind with the energy of judgment. So I was very hard on myself. As a kid, it was hard to rationalize or ingest.
Wow. Yeah, that's a lot for a young kid to take in. I mean, just sometimes being a kid and trying to just live life, and sometimes, parents say things and do things, but now you have all this added amazing gift that you're trying to work through. You mentioned, Janet, that you thought everyone had this gift and you kind of didn't understand that you were extremely special. But I know from working with you that you do say that we all have at least one of the clairs within us. Can you tell us a little bit about that so we can understand what that means?
Certainly. So when we're born, right, we, besides our physical body, our soul has memory from our past lives as well. I've been doing regression work for almost 2 decades already. And there's definitely, a past, present, and future. And there are things that there's no such thing as coincidence. And when synchronicity happens, or those aha moments, it is a glimpse of what your soul's journey is, a glimpse of what your predestined plan was, a glimpse of what that contract before you came onto planet Earth is. So we all are souls that have had many experiences that are now going through this human experience, in a sense, or a soul having, what do they say? A soul having a human experience, right? Mm-hmm. So we're limited in our physical space. Yes. We're limited in physical aspects. We're limited. And the reason why we have these limitations and duality is so we can learn about compassion and different energies of, universal laws. But every single person has the gift of intuition, and it lives in our hearts. It also lives in our sixth chakra, right? Our ajna. This is where the pineal gland is. And when we are born, it is activated. We can sense things. Our sensory skills, which besides our 5 senses, it's not that it's magnified, but it's balanced just as well as our ability to see, if we're born healthy, and hear and feel and taste. And as we get older, what happens, or as we go through experiences, calcification forms on that pineal gland. And if we're not utilizing our intuition, and we're just going through what the rules and regulations, then we tend to lose sight of that, and we're looking for outside sources for the answers, when in reality, every single one of us has a gift of either seeing or feeling or sensing, and we feel it in our bodies. Our bodies, if we are awake and alert, will give us those signals. We just have to be able to be a great, I don't want to say spiritual diagnostician, but a great translator. So it's really going within, of getting to know yourself again.
It comes back to awareness, but I think many of us, and I guess my question for you is, why do we have such a hard time really paying attention to and trusting, I think, our intuition? We're just like, we kind of no, that's the, and it really guides us. So why do we have such a hard time with that?
It's always thinking that perhaps somebody else knows better than I do. It has to do with, confidence. It has to do with, let me go into the doors of logic. Maybe there's a logical solution for this instead of a spiritual solution. And many times people come to me because they're trying to find a logical solution to a spiritual plan. So what I do is I give them the tools of their spiritual tools, so they get to go through in spirituality. Not, it defies logic at times. And later on, hindsight 2020, you said, wow, thank God I didn't act upon it. I created space. But we always
So
think
important.
because, yeah, I mean, I work with, professors, with doctors, with lawyers, people from, the C-suites and Ivy Leagues, and of people of all different calibers and sometimes the more that we know, that we
Mhm.
read, at times it gets cluttered in and finding that solution instead of it, creating just a vastness of knowledge. But
Yeah.
it's,
I
yeah.
can attest to that because I have always been a very analytical person, very
Yes,
logical, sort
yes.
of like many years ago, if I can't see it, then it doesn't exist type of stuff. And I've had to, over time, really just relax into things and be aware of when I notice, oh, there's the mind talking again. And I just got to tell it, hey, I'm going to put you on a shelf for a second because I'm going to open up and really listen in. And I know you meditate every morning, much like I do. And I think it's such an important practice to have, to sit in stillness and silence and give yourself that space to do that.
Meditation is just meditation changed my life. Speaking about New York, right?
Mhm.
What you mentioned, New York, let's say speed limit is 30, everyone's going 75. I'm a Brooklyn girl. I was born and raised in Brooklyn. Now we're in Staten Island. But this is like, it's very dense here. It
Mhm.
isn't like, where I live, thank goodness, like I need to retreat in nature. So
Yeah.
I'm surrounded by nature. So it's the city mouse finding the country, sanctuary. I got the best of both worlds. But at the same time, it's meditation is creating that space. And I'm like,
Yes.
how can I sit still? I have to do things. I need to, but it's that sitting still and practicing different meditations really brings more than just a cup of clarity, but a
Yeah.
whole ocean of clarity, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it just really, like you said, it changes us. And it leads me to one of the things I wanted to talk about is energy and how important it is that we are aware of it when it's off. Because I know I've heard you say that when we have unprocessed energy within us, it causes us to feel dense. You could get a great night's sleep, 8.5 hours of solid sleep, and still wake up feeling tired. And I
Yes.
believe, right, that it's a lot of it is that unprocessed energy that's within us. So how do we work with that? How do we move that? Because does that not affect also our ability to tune in?
Certainly. Certainly, because if we focus in too much on the inability or the density, and we're bringing our mind more into that instead of what's on the other side of the veil, we get stuck in that. We get stuck in the muck. We get stuck in it's like not even gravel, but it feels like molasses.
Yeah.
It feels like molasses, and we get stuck in that. And what happens is, as with life's trials and tribulations, it's not that the universe is keeping score. Absolutely
Mm.
not. We
It's
have
not
our
out to get
own.
us, right? It's not out to get us. It's on our side. Let's get
No,
that clear.
it's always on our side, right? It's always on our side. And um, we play many roles. We play, but at the same time, we're all children of the creator, and if we look at each other as kids, as we're just all trying to figure it out, trying to go into the quest of happiness and love. And what happens is, since the moment of creation, we're absorbing,
Mhm.
especially as empaths. If anyone is actually tuned into your podcast or that follows me, you're all empaths.
Yeah.
You have the ability to sense energy. You have the ability, but you may not be able to decipher it at that moment in time correctly, but
Right.
you all have that ability. It's just, so what happens most often than not, we unknowingly absorb the emotions, perhaps, of others, of the environment, of television. I really
Yeah.
don't. I really don't watch
The news.
television
Mhm.
at all. We absorb of what is our surroundings, and we don't realize we're doing that. You know, we are electrical beings. Also, you know, our hearts is an electromagnetic
Mhm.
frequency, and the magnetic frequency of our heart. Oh, my dog is barking in her
It's
sleep. I
okay.
was like, what?
I don't hear her. I'm
She's so
surprised mine
cute.
aren't taking off too. They just go and go, but they're quiet
Oh,
now. So
really? No,
yeah.
Zoe doesn't bark in general, only in her sleep. That's when she
Oh,
realizes she's a dog, you know? It's she
that's sweet.
Yeah, very sweet. Do you hear her?
It's all right.
So cute. So what happens, we absorb all these energies from day one, from creation. Now let's just talk about just this lifetime. So we absorb the, you know, the happiness, the different emotions, the breakups. We all
Mhm.
have had a love and lost. We've all been rejected. We've all experienced failures. We've all experienced highs and lows when it came down to money. We've all experienced, but each person has their own destiny, and they have free will. But throughout life's trials and tribulations, we don't realize it's our emotions, depending on the way that we react to the external scenery. We're actually taking that and embracing it in
Bringing,
our
yeah.
body.
Yeah.
We you know, and I say embrace instead of like it, you know, it attacks us. But we do that because of our compassionate hearts, because we
Mhm.
feel deeply, not because we want to experience pain, or we're like, oh, I am so sad today because I'm not an important person, but I feel very deeply. And the more sensitive you are, the more brownie points you get because you care. That's
Mhm.
ego.
Yeah.
No, it's because of our compassionate nature. And these energies, the emotional things, get stuck in our body parts. It can get stuck in our chakras. And that's something that's a different
That's,
podcast.
yeah. Mhm.
Yes. But there's times that if we ignore it, it's like a little snowflake that is on top of a mountain, a snowy mountain. If it goes down the hill, it'll become this huge, like, you know,
That's
huge, like,
momentum.
correct. And then it takes a little bit more effort and awareness to actually get into the core of that. And later on, there are different signals that will let you know that when
Mhm.
energy is stuck. The first thing is your intuition. If you're not aware, you know,
Right.
listen to it. And the second, it happens on a physical aspect.
Yeah.
And every single soul has its own signature calling, their signals of what that is as them as an individual. Even though we're all one, each of us came here with a specific destiny in order to raise the consciousness of the entire planet.
Yeah. And we can't do that if we're kind of like weighed down by so much. So, what are some things, Janet, you would suggest to help us sort of move that energy up and out of us in our, maybe in our daily lives? I know we mentioned meditation, which would be one. What are some other things you think would help?
Spiritual nutrition.
Hmm.
You know, it's spirituality means, you know, it's an array of things. It's not about religion. It's about your own truth. It's finding what your truth is and um, expanding on it. It's about connecting to the fun, the joy that is
Hmm.
inside, because the joy is actually, it's not just curiosity that's the antidote to depression or sadness,
Right.
but it's also the joy, finding something that you really love to do and do it daily, you know,
Mhm.
make it part of that, because there are responsibilities, especially if you're parents, if you are running a company as well. If you're
Yeah.
running a company and you don't have physical children, that is your baby. You know, your company is an extension of you, of your creation. So another thing is to find fun. The other spiritual nutrition is journaling.
Yeah.
Journaling, writing things down, even if it doesn't make sense. a well-balanced diet that is for you, not for anyone else.
True.
It's, I know that I can't have certain sugars that I know. My body goes into inflammation. Was it always like that?
Mhm.
No. It's just at this moment in time, as a vessel, as a clairvoyant, my body and my mind has to be pure before I do any
Yeah.
type of session. Imagine like I ate a chocolate cake before a session. Like, I would be
You'd
eating, then
be
I would go to
snoozing.
bed, I'd be snoozing and
Pardon me while I take a nap. I'll be
yeah,
right back.
exactly. So just, so definitely of great diet that is great for you. And really of, I am an advocate of organic food,
Yes, of course.
because the chemicals, as an empath, we don't realize, but we are very sensitive to different preservatives. We are sensitive to chemicals, to smells as well, like even your environment. That's another way that you can help clear the clutter, from making your environment, clear out the clutter, get an air purifier, make sure you have less stuff, actually.
Yeah, because
Less
stuff
stuff.
carries energy. We don't realize that.
Mm-mm.
And that energy affects us, especially if you're a highly sensitive individual or an empath, as
Yes.
you've mentioned. We're sensitive to a lot of things. And it's not that we're just like sensitive people that don't want to cooperate, or no, things affect us. I know for me, when I am in a large crowd and it is very loud, I can only take that for just so very long, and I need to separate myself. And
Yes.
I don't mean to be like, not positive Patty and leave the party or whatever it is, but I've learned I need to protect my energy in a particular way so that it doesn't affect me. But I
Yeah.
didn't know that many years ago, and I thought, oh, I'm not kind of participating. Oh, what are people going to think? And you want to please people, and we get into all of that. But um,
Certainly.
so I know from working with you that we shouldn't get caught up in the past, right?
No.
But I think it's important. Present moment is all we have. But I think it's important with the work that you do that we do step a little bit back into the past to understand why we are where we are right now. I think that the information helps us. So tell us about how we can do this in the most efficient way, or how kind of, I don't want to say reliving the past, but dipping into the past to understand how to move forward.
Regression work is incredible. There are things that are hidden in our subconscious,
Mhm.
and, our fears, apprehensions, even certain traumas that, covert or overt. And sometimes we go through the notion of out of sight, out of mind. We're just not
Mm.
going to think about it. And I remember, as a teenager, I remember one girlfriend telling me that, she was in this long-term relationship and he betrayed her, he cheated on her. It was like, teenage
Yeah.
stuff, but it could be at any time, right? Anytime. And she goes, I'm just going to imagine that he's dead. That's the only way that I'll
Mm.
get over him. And I'm like, oh my God, like is that even like healthy to do? But she's like, that's just the only way. It's that he just didn't exist. That relationship didn't exist. But you've experienced it. Your body holds memory. Your body holds, your biographies, your biology. This
I
is
like that.
this is this is it holds memory, inside. So if you don't actually digest that, you're going to go through the same exact relationship with a different mask. So this is something that I learned throughout the years with my own relationships, but also when I met Dr. Brian Weiss, and I was regressed under national television, and one of my deepest, darkest secrets came out. But it was things that I really feared about. I had to go back in order to have the courage to move forward in the future. So it's almost as if coming to peace with it,
Right.
with things in the past. Forgiveness is the utmost. Forgiveness is the key to your liberation.
Yes, ma'am.
Forgiveness does. Whew, forgiveness. It does not mean that you're condoning
At all.
the crappy behavior
Of the
or
person.
of the other person. They could be like, pure, like a dictator or a type of like, but there's a reason why you got into that particular situation. We learn through relationships. So that's what life is all about. It's through your back, your journey back to yourself through love, to love, but it's with other people, not as a life of a hermit.
No, relationships are assignments. I think Dr. Wayne Dyer said that many years ago. Relationships are assignments, and we are assigned people. There's also, by Carolyn Myss, that book called Sacred Contracts. And I believe in that. I believe that, who is meant to come into your life at a particular time for whatever reason is there to teach you something. And oftentimes, as you said, maybe it's there to break that particular pattern in your life and help you finally heal and understand, kind of like Eureka, of whatever it is.
Because the way spirit speaks to us actually is through a whisper. The way healing happens, healing can happen spontaneously. It could happen. Some people think that it can happen in, healing when something that you've had for such a long time that I've already done 3 sessions or 4 sessions with this. How come it's not working?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it can happen. Exactly. It is a process, but it is also, it can happen in quantum, where it can happen when your soul agrees for it to happen, when you are ready to step into your freedom, when you are ready to forgive not only the other person, but yourself. And that is, it's sometimes where we hold that anger for ourselves, that we allowed ourselves to behave in a certain way. And behaving doesn't mean in an irrational, in an immature way. Behavior could be also of not speaking up, of being subservient, or
staying quiet.
Correct. Staying quiet in itself is, putting yourself in prison, and we are free. If you're watching this, you are free, right? So it is extremely, extremely important to go through the process of forgiving yourself and others, because you just didn't have access to the wisdom and the tools that you have now. And it's all about divine timing. So and through quantum, we can heal that immediately. If the soul is ready. That's what I do in the Journey to Inner Peace sessions. That is profound.
Very much so.
Yes.
What is the difference, Janet, between destiny and free will? I think we've all heard those two terms. Can you clarify? Because I know a lot of your work really centers around your destiny sessions and helping others heal and really understand their purpose and why they're here. So tell us a little bit about what each of those mean.
So before we're born, we have a pre-birth plan. We have, it's our destiny. And each soul has the highest potential to go through the highest octave of what it is we came here to do. And it's through the utmost brilliance of their soul. So our free will are the choices that we are given day to day. We have a choice whether an obstacle or a situation presents itself to us every single day through these relationships, right? AKA assignments, right? By what Wayne Dyer says. And we have an opportunity, even the adversary, to choose forgiveness or resentment. We have the opportunity to choose sadness or stepping into the doors of happiness. We think we don't choose. We think like it's happening to us at this moment in time, but there is always a choice. And the choice is where we are creating the free will. Because as humans in this, in the physical body, we are learning through different of the duality of things, as above as below, right? We learn through opposites as well, which is one of the main virtues of so many souls that I've read. Probably, thousands and thousands of people, but a lot of people have that law of reflection, and as one of their virtues is what they see in others. The reason why sometimes it bothers them so much, because perhaps it was something that they've experienced in the past, or they've seen, maybe not in themselves, but in a parent or someone, a close loved one, that reminded them. So our free will is a catalyst also. There are certain catalysts. Anything that has an emotional feeling to it has a, and where we feel apprehension or excitement, we have a choice. That free will is something that we create. But if we are creating the free will of not stepping into the doors of our destiny, which is courage, we can get stuck in there, in those doors, and we can create fate. Fate is different than destiny. Fate is some mishmash soup that we created. And we're like, oh my God, I remember this when I was 27. I'm doing it again. Oh my God, but I'm much wiser now. Why am I in this again?
Right.
So it's carrying those same patterns and staying, if you could picture your destiny as this beautiful corridor and there are opportunities to the right. But in order to go through the doors of what you came here to, you need to really fill yourself up with the spiritual nutrition of reconnecting to yourself, having a great mentor, having a great community. And it may not be, it's not about the masses. It's not about the quantity. It's the quality.
Right. The right people.
Of the right people. And if you put that intention out there without expectations of who or what shows up or when it shows up, it will, because that's certainty. If you have 1% of doubt, you may fall into the pattern. I don't want to say fall. You may choose at that moment of fate. And fate is something that you're creating that will, it's almost like a vortex that goes in circles and circles and circles. And you have to get out of that labyrinth. And the way you get out of that labyrinth is when you're like, okay, enough is enough. I choose me. And when you choose you and you choose love, then suddenly the right people will come along. You'll hear the right voice. You'll see, this is synchronicity starts happening.
Magic just starts to just show up.
Magic.
I've experienced that very much so.
Yeah. It's
and
beautiful.
To just piggyback on what you said, it reminds me of one of my favorite, most profound books is by Marianne Williamson. It's A Return to Love, and it's based on the Course in Miracles. And one of the things that she says there, it's basically we have two choices, similar to what you said. We can either choose to live in love or we can choose to live in fear.
Correct.
And that fear is what creates, I'm taking that fate that you're saying. When we choose to see things like the universe isn't supporting me, why does this always happen to me? That victim mentality. But if we choose courage, from what I'm hearing you say, we are better able to step into that door of our destiny and really start creating that life, because we are co-creators. Yes?
That 1,000,000,000%.
Yeah.
Not only are we co-creators, it's validation even with our breath. As you're speaking, it's interesting because I just started channeling in. They showed me, like when I say they, it's my angels and guides, and this is what I do. And your angels and guides, this is what we do when we connect. That when you're stepping into the doors of destiny, your lung capacity opens. You're opening your wings up. You're able to take a deep breath in. Think about like when you're practicing or you're training for a race, you have to like build the stamina of breath. Oxygen has to come in, with each inhale, it's God's exhale. It's the spirit that is inside of you. So when you're open to realize that God is leading you or the creator is leading you, you're not leading. This is very important. We are not leading. We're co-creators.
Right.
We are not just the creators. So we are co-creating. So when the expansion of the lungs and the heart chakra of opening up and you're like, I'm going to do this, and you take that deep breath, that is when you're going into destiny.
Yeah.
When you are going into the doors of fate, the breath is constricted. You're breathing like this is when anxiety, you feel tight. Your lungs are not even opening up. You're not even utilizing 100% of the capacity of your span of each lung. You're utilizing maybe 20%, and the breath is shallow and short. Yeah. But when you're going into the doors of destiny, you're able to breathe in, even though you're nervous a little bit because it's the unknown,
Mhm.
right? But know this, you've seen it before you came here, and that's the destiny sessions. You've
Mm.
seen it all before you signed the contract. So take that deep breath, step in with courage, and make sure that you honor the fact that you're stepping out of your comfort zone, even if it's a baby step.
Yep.
It's
Start small.
great. Start
Start small,
somewhere.
but start
Yeah.
and say
Yeah.
yes to yourself. And I believe that that is how we step in to start living our life with flow, with trusting and believing and having faith that everything is happening for me, not to me.
Yes. Yes.
Right.
Yes. Exactly.
So, Janet, the last question that everyone gets on the podcast is, because it's called A Cup of Clarity, is what has been a moment of clarity for you in your life? And I know as an intuitive, there's lots of clarity coming in all the time, but what moment do you specifically remember, whether long ago or recent? And what did that moment of clarity teach you?
That I'm never alone. That I'm never alone, that I'm surrounded by love always.
Beautiful.
And that when I was 11 and I was diagnosed with something, I said, no, I don't want this. I'm 100% healthy. And literally the next moment, it was my connection to source, my connection to love, my connection to miracles, the belief of miracles that we all have. So truly, we are never alone.
Beautiful. So, one of the last little fun things I like to do is what I call the recommended segment. I always ask my guests to tell me a few things that they recommend. I'm going to give you 4 categories, and you're just going to tell me what you recommend in each.
Sure.
So, I'm going
This
to
is
start.
fun.
Yeah, I'm going to start with a destination because the world is opening up now. I just took a wonderful trip with my friend, Dr. Eileen Marie, and we went to Sedona. So, that was like my first trip in a long time on a plane and whatnot. So, what's a destination that you would recommend?
I actually was going to say Sedona. I loved Sedona when the moment that I landed in the airport and then we drove to Sedona, I couldn't stop crying.
Hmm.
I was leading a retreat with Jennifer Grace at that
Yes.
time. And we made this declaration. I said, let's do it on 11/11. Let's do it,
Super powerful.
and it was super powerful, but I couldn't stop crying. It was just the energy of the place. It was the
It's a very
energy of,
magical place. I've been there 3 times. Love
yes,
it.
yes. So Sedona definitely, I love. I even love the Catskills in New York.
Never
That
been.
really, um, there's magical land. It's magical land. It's only 2 hours away from where I am here in the
Wow.
city. And there's something about the land. It's something about the vastness of the lakes and the beauty and the quiet. But there's something there that I just
Mm,
feel home. It feels
yeah.
like home to me.
There's certain places that help us feel that way, at peace,
Yeah.
just really grounded and just free. And nature will definitely do that to us.
Exactly. It's not like this exotic place like
Yeah.
Bali or whatever. It's like, what? The Catskills? Like, wasn't that where Dirty Dancing was
Oh
filmed?
my goodness, I think so.
Yeah, but this is, it's for me,
Yeah.
it's very mystical.
There
That's,
you go. Folks,
yeah.
look up the Catskills. What's a product, Janet, a product that you like or use or really would like to recommend?
Mm. The product that I use, oh goodness, there's so many products that I use, but I love to use, like, when I take baths, because this is something that it's honoring the soul, right? There's a product it's called From Ancient Minerals. It's just, all it is just magnesium salt. It's regular salt,
Okay.
but it was something about the energy of that product that with a little bit of frankincense, like organic frankincense oil,
Wow.
and I make like these jars of like frankincense oil during full moons and new moons every single month. And depending
Mm,
on the energy of the month, like I'll put frankincense and something else in it, because frankincense is like the magnifier. And every single month, it's my little ritual that I put outside, and I kind of like allow it to bask in the energy of the moon, of the new moon and the full moon. And then I take a little drop and I'll put it in the bath with me.
Mm. Super relaxing, and it definitely
Yeah.
helps. Yep.
Yep. Sometimes I'll put geranium, sometimes lavender, depends on whatever I'm being called to.
Beautiful. And because you're a New Yorker, tell me somewhere in New York that you love. What's
Oh man.
just any little random thing from New York?
Wow. I love New York. I really do. From the West Village to Central Park to Gramercy to, I mean, New York is just, there's so much history there. That I remember, like, with my husband and I going to this like underground, like during like the speakeasies, like during that time,
Oh,
the 1920s. And there's so much history that's there. I love that it was the place of where a lot of immigrants from all
mhm.
over of Europe and Asia
Yes.
and Africa and all over the world. And it was the hub. So it's interesting with my two kids, they don't see race, color, religion, or anything.
Beautiful.
They grew up in this, like, you know, the vastness of openness, of different
Yeah.
cultures, of different religions, of different colors.
As it should
And
be.
yeah, and that's what I really, really love about New York. And you could just go to Central Park, sit there and just people watch, but not in without a, and it's
Not with
just
judgment, just
not with the judgment,
just be
just
present.
with, yeah, just be present. It's just, but you'll realize that we actually are all the same. We're just trying to, like, you know, mimic the identity of our soul and express it in the fullness
Yeah.
of whatever we feel at that moment.
And the final recommended category is a book that you would recommend to our listeners on any book.
It's interesting. So, as you know, I went through a little. So this is probably the old one, right?
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
this is You Can Heal Your Life,
By
and
Louise
even though,
Hay.
by Louise Hay, and even though I've been doing healing work, and I'm a, you know, spiritual diagnostician work for over 20, 25 years, but this was one of the first books. This book and Many
Yeah.
Lives, Many Masters is a must read by Dr. Brian
And
Weiss.
Rice.
That those two books are my favorite books, but Many Lives, Many Masters, really, it's, even if you're the biggest skeptic and you never
Yeah.
experienced a past life regression or anything like that, it will definitely open up your heart and your mind and know that you aren't alone. You aren't. Love always leads the way. And this is a better way. This book will teach you how to trust the voice of your body
Yes.
and how you can just transmute it through your genuine intentions and
Mhm.
through genuine actions,
Yeah.
you know. And this is
Louise Hay
she's
was a pioneer. I think she was continuing to do her work till she was like 90 something when she passed away, still
yeah.
working in just her work, which was obviously she opened up one of the first spiritual type publishing businesses
Yes.
at the age of like 60 something. So that's amazing to start with. And as a woman, I have a lot of respect for her. I have several of her books. And yes, that one, You Can Heal Your Life, is a very,
Yeah.
very special one. Thank you for recommending that. And Janet, I know you have a very special gift for our listeners today. So I'd like for you to just
Yes.
tell us a little bit about what they can get for free.
I love giving gifts. I like receiving gifts also. Actually, I love receiving gifts as well. But so couple of things, like, I every single month I offer something called a free monthly vibe, right?
Yes, which is
And
amazing.
oh, thank you. And it's always given the first, I transmit the energy of the month, the first Thursday of every single month. So depending on whatever day that falls on. And you can always just register and you'll subscribe to that. But the free gift that I'd love to give, because if you do show up live though on the monthly vibe, you can win a free reading.
Mhm.
One lucky winner always wins, and I just read you right there and then, but you end up being the surrogate for the collective at that moment.
Right.
Like, and but for your viewers especially, I'd love to give the Ho'oponopono meditation. And what that is, it's an ancient Hawaiian prayer for forgiveness. And it's a meditation
Mm.
that will allow solace and peace to come into your heart. And you could just go in there, even if are going through something very strenuous and heavy on the heart, just even the act of breath and of
Yeah.
allowing that to go through. And I combine that meditation with something called a microcosmic orbit.
Wow.
And the microcosmic orbit meditation is over 5,000 years old. It's from Tibet, from, Eastern. And this is something that we create in our bodies just through our breath and the flow that can allow exactly what your question was earlier. How can we open up those energies so healing can begin? So this free gift will allow that too, that beautiful meditation. So thank you for giving me that opportunity to share.
Absolutely. And I want to make sure that folks connect with you. So Janet can be, you can find her on social media, on Instagram and Facebook at janet.namaste. And you can also go to her website, which is namastewithlove.com, as well as upcoming janetnamaste.com. And Janet, it has been, as always, an absolute pleasure to have you here. Thank you for your time, for sharing your incredible wisdom, and just being you, because you are just such a special soul. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for being my guest today.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeanette. What a pleasure. I love connecting with you. What a beautiful, beautiful heart you have. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I hope this episode with Janet Namaste and tuning into your intuition sparked the insight within. To get Janet's free gift, you can grab this episode's toolkit on my website, JeanetteMelian.com, and click on the podcast tab. Until next time, I send you love and light. May your cup be full and overflowing.